Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Good Guys Sports. We are back in action here, joined by myself, your host, Blake Gerke, and joined by Jackson Gerke and Mike Roby, here to look at an exciting week upcoming in college football, NFL, and as well touch upon a few things that happened last week, mainly in the world of football, obviously. Here in September, we got some big games that have happened and are coming up. And, gentlemen, I want to start in the world of college football, where we have had some teams drop and some teams fall, right? I think, according to the latest AP poll, our top five consist of Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Miami, and Georgia. Now, perhaps most of those teams maybe wouldn't be too big of a surprise. We should have mentioned as well, just on the outside there, Oregon and Florida State. But I think a couple teams have started off the season really well, like University of Miami with big wins over Notre Dame, and they've got a big game, maybe not as big comparatively speaking, this weekend, Jack, when College Game Day will be down in South Florida for Miami versus Florida. Apart from that, the slate doesn't feature too many top 25 matchups apart from Auburn taking on Oklahoma in that SEC matchup. Oklahoma
Texas
having
Tech and Utah.
Texas Tech and Utah. That's right. That's right. 17-16, 17-16. Of course. Yeah. How could I
But
forget the
but
Utes?
Blake, anchor down.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to get to that, Mike, but I think we should we should mention it as soon as possible, right? Where
Number 20.
my Vanderbilt Commodores have
Who would have thought?
skyrocketed up
Who
the
would have thought?
rankings. If you look at the position from last week compared to this week in the AP top 25, Vanderbilt is by far the biggest riser, climbing 21 spots in the AP poll all the way up to 20. Comparatively speaking, Notre Dame down going down 16 spots, but somehow still being the AP top 25 while
Oh,
having no wins, which is a funny.
0-2.
I mean, I like to get Mike your history guy, but
Uh-huh.
I like to see the history times of how many winless teams have been in the AP top 25 before. That can't be a long list, right?
I don't. Yeah,
Apart
I
from
couldn't
being
tell you
0
the
and
last
1,
one.
there's some 0 and 1 teams that would still be in there
Yeah.
after losing the first week. But
Well, this
um,
is week 4, so
yeah,
it's still early.
it's an interesting one for sure, but yeah, Vanderbilt's got a couple of easy games coming up. I mean, I should knock on wood, huh? But they're playing Georgia State, Utah State, and then the real test comes when they go down
October 4.
To Tuscaloosa,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, we beat them last year, so it can't be that hard, right, to win against the Crimson Tide. But we can talk about any of these matchups or any of these teams. But Jack, I want to start with you. And I want to say from the first couple weeks of this college football season, what has been the biggest surprise or what has stood out to you the most?
Oh, I mean, come on. South Carolina, my Gamecocks, sorry, Blake, getting upset to your Vanderbilt Commodores.
I'm glad you
Their
said it.
quarterback, Pavio, Pavio, their quarterback, just somehow, from what I've seen from the Vanderbilt Commodores, I have seen some no quit in this locker room. They went into a hostile environment at Williams-Brice with all of those waving, all of those sandstorm towels waving. They quiet the crowd. The fans left the stadium
Those
early.
towels got quieted quickly, didn't they?
Yeah, it looked like it to me. And from what I can understand, that Renor Sellers got injured in that game. He is Renor Sellers, according to my sources, he is now questionable for the game at Missouri at Mizzou in the Upper Columbia in Missouri. He just he he tried to play less minutes in this game and did all the best he could. He just got hurt too much, and I just didn't want him. And I just didn't want and he was just facing a lot of pressure in this game against this Vanderbilt defense, and that was what let him down. And I just got to tell you that South Carolina didn't even score any points in the second half, which is so crazy to think of, but it was unheard of. And so really got to give credit to Vanderbilt because let me tell you, Blake, this Vanderbilt team that you mentioned, they are going to put the SEC on notice.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to repeat it one more time. That on notice, on notice.
Notice.
What do I mean by
Notice.
that? That those those SEC opponents are going to are going to are going to have to pay attention
Absolutely.
and watch because this Vanderbilt team is no joke and they're for real.
I think people are
And
starting to
I'm
realize that now,
telling
Jack.
you, and I'm telling you, Blake, this team won a bowl game a year ago.
Of course,
They
yeah.
they upset the number one ranked team, Alabama, last season.
They absolutely did.
Well, yeah, and they won on the road at Blacksburg at Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
This Vanderbilt team, Blake, like you mentioned, is for real. They're on a whole nother level, and this team looks scary. And I wouldn't want to play against this team because
I'm with you.
Because Quark Lee and this Vanderbilt team, they're building something special. And
Yeah,
this locker
we
room
should
and
mention
those
the
group of
coach as
guys
well.
are really putting a lot of hard work on those guys and those players, and they are the real deal. And got them a lot of credit. But this Vanderbilt team on both sides of the ball, they are for real, and they are going to be a fun team to watch. Most likely in all of the Southeastern Conference.
So, Jack, I got a question for you. You
Yeah.
speaking of Virginia Tech, who just fired their coach Pry because they got walloped by Old Dominion.
Yeah, that's nothing new to me.
So-
This is no new news for me, Mike.
But my question is related back to South Carolina. Would it be possible that Shane Beamer leaves South Carolina to go to Blacksburg and to coach his dad's old team
What?
where Virginia Tech gets Beamer ball back? Is
You
that
know-
possible?
Mike, that's interesting because I'm glad you brought it up because Coach Beamer did coach there and play there as a player, like you said, and for him to leave his beloved South Carolina, if he continues to lose at Missouri or the next few games that are remaining on their schedule, it's possible, but I wouldn't rule it out. But this South Carolina team, if they continue to lose games this season, then yeah, I think he'll be in the hot seat, and yeah, I most certainly won't rule it out without question.
Yeah, I mean Virginia Tech football is certainly in a tough position after that, but I guess the thinking there would be just bring a Beamer in and he'll sort things out because it worked for us last time, right? So,
Yeah.
Now, Jack, I have a couple other interesting sort of teams to keep an eye on. I think we should mention as well in the ACC, Jack. It looks like Dabo Swinney is in a bit of trouble here with his Clemson Tigers have fallen heavily out of the top 25 with that loss in Atlanta against
Yellow Jackets.
Georgia Tech last week, who themselves have skyrocketed into the AP top 25. They could be a sneaky team in the ACC as well. But obviously, they lost the first week to LSU. People were not particularly impressed with that performance, but they thought, okay, maybe this is more LSU is a good team. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But that loss against the Rambling Wreck has certainly thrown the ACC into a bit of turmoil here. So,
Clemson only beat Troy by 11 points, and they were playing at home.
27-16. Yeah, that's certainly not what you would expect in that kind of matchup, is it?
No,
not at all. But to your point on South Carolina's schedule, before we move on to this, to where Clemson is, So I look ahead, and they're the only game that I see them with a better chance of winning is against Kentucky, but their schedule gets a lot tougher after that. They have to go to LSU
to the SEC.
Oklahoma and Alabama, where thanks in large part for adding new teams to the conference, where things got a lot tougher. So that's the part. So yeah, absolutely. So that's the part where I and at Ole Miss and A&M, Coastal Carolina, and then Clemson, and so to finish up the season, and so. That's the part where
they've got 5 straight games against top 15 opponents right now.
Top 5 defenses and teams in the rankings, and that's the part
that's a pretty brutal stretch.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Especially that's the part where where I'm a bit nervous and just a little
Well,
bit.
I mean, you should be.
Well, yeah, because of the way that the schedule people set things up and how Strush and Bredible discovering it is. I mean, it's really not anywhere. It's nowhere near nowhere you really want to be if you're a South Carolina fan, and that's the part where you really you really got to go for the stretch as a football team for this program, and as a South Carolina fan, you are not gonna love this. You're not going to love this because this stretch, yeah, it's tougher, but it's gonna be one to be a gauntlet, and that's really going to build up a lot of pressure for the fan base.
Yeah,
Uh,
South Carolina's going to have to beat Clemson to save their season.
the,
Yeah. Or else Coach Beamer could be in the hot seat, or and could possibly be sending him to Blacksburg next season.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we should I missed another top 25 matchup that I think a lot of people thought might be the biggest game this weekend, which is Illinois traveling to Indiana.
Yeah.
Typically, not you would think maybe this would be a basketball game, but not a football game. But these two schools are looking pretty good in that Big Ten standings right now. So
Yeah.
that's certainly another game to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah.
We know
So this will
Indiana
be the
had to go when we saw Indiana beat up on Duke Blue Devils here in the Triangle previously. So
Illinois played
Illinois,
Duke.
excuse me, yeah.
Yeah,
So
45 to
they're
19.
for real, yeah. They're a top team for sure.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be Indiana's fourth home game in a row.
Okay, interesting.
And
So you think wait and see till they get on the road before making a judgment here, huh?
well, they haven't neither Illinois nor Indiana have really played anybody, but a couple of teams that Indiana's played, Kennesaw State and Indiana State, they blew out, which
So this
what
will
you
be
would
a
expect.
right. So this will be a big test for seeing how these teams actually fare against, high
Yeah.
level opposition, right?
Yeah. Last week, I mean, Illinois won big, but they were playing Western Michigan, and they won 38-0.
My
So
question, my question is though, Mike, do we think the high end of the Big Ten is obviously elite, Ohio State and Penn State, but is the rest of the Big Ten a bit overrated this year, i.e., is the gauntlet of going through an SEC season considerably more difficult than going through the gauntlet of a Big Ten season this year in particular? Is my question, and what I'm not particularly sure at. I think Illinois, Indiana, Oregon, I think these teams are good, but I think comparatively speaking to the SEC, my question is how high is that middle to lower pack of the Big
yeah,
Ten this year,
yeah, no, I would agree. I think to me, I think the surprising conference is the ACC.
Right, with the likes of
Miami and Florida State's
Georgia
playing well.
Tech.
Georgia Tech.
We should mention Florida State as well, obviously coming off that big win against Alabama,
Mhm.
and they are going to be having a sterner test, possibly not this weekend. They're taking on, so they're taking on later this month, Virginia, and then
Mhm.
they'll be taking on Miami at home,
Yeah.
beginning of October. That'll be a huge game in the ACC, won't it? Probably
Yeah.
the two current favorites for that
Yeah.
conference. So
But I think, Miami's playing Florida on
right,
Saturday.
I
But
wouldn't give Florida much of a chance there, would you?
I know I don't give them a
The
chance at
way they've
all.
played so far this season.
You also have to remember they have Carson Beck as the quarterback.
Hmm.
Miami has an SEC quarterback,
Right.
and Beck has been playing stellar so far this
He
year.
has 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Over
paid off
78% completion rate. He's
100%.
now on the, depending on the poll, either one or two in the early Heisman favorites.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you look at their schedule, I mentioned the game where they travel to Tallahassee. Apart from that, it's really not that crazy of a schedule in the ACC. Like they don't have to play Georgia Tech. They don't have to play uh, Clemson, even though Clemson we said earlier is not maybe
Hmm.
as good as they have been. But I mean, Louisville, Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC
Hmm.
State, Virginia Tech, Pitt. I mean, these are good teams and good programs, and it wouldn't shock me if they
Yeah.
end up getting upset at some point. But I mean, getting past Notre Dame and getting past what they thought a pesky South Florida team,
Hmm.
who they ended up being quite handily. If they get past the Gators on Saturday, I think Miami could be sleepwalking to a high seed for the playoffs for sure. So they
No,
could
I would
easily win the
agree.
ACC. Yeah, I think
So
they're.
Jack, if Florida loses, is Napier in trouble?
Um,
I think so.
yes, he
I
is.
think he's already in trouble right now.
Well, yeah. Well, if he loses, then yes, he is already in trouble. He,
I mean, losing
if
anytime Jackson of University of Florida coach loses to South Florida at home, he's going to be in trouble, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And again, they too have a tough schedule. You you lose to Texas A&M, and now they got blown out of the stadium by LSU last Saturday in Death Valley in Baton Rouge, and because it was a night game and it was really hard to take the crowd of it in that environment. Now you're going to be going to another one down in South Florida against the U in Miami, going up against the former Georgia quarterback Carson Beck, who looks great at home, and they're off to a great start. I mean, let's face it, they beat they beat Notre Dame in their season opener a few weeks ago. They I mean they even beat one of those cupcake teams, but after that week after, and so yeah, I do have to say I do have to believe that with Carson Beck playing at a high level, that 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 if Florida does lose and continues to not play on a high level for DJ Alguaway was supposed to be by far was supposed to be they were Billy Napier and their quarterback DJ Wackaway, who was probably predicted in the NFL draft this upcoming after this upcoming season, that he was supposed to be playing on a high level. Instead, the team is going on the opposite direction, going sideways, and that's really where it just really really bothers me because of how poorly their defense and their offense hasn't been clicking on all cylinders for probably for this football team, and that's really why they've been losing a lot of games. And quite frankly, they just haven't been playing on a clicking on all cylinders on a very high level like they usually do. So
I,
to
I
answer your
wanted to
question,
ask.
I think Florida just doesn't really have all the firepower and weapons on both sides of the ball or offense like they usually do. Since the days of Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier, well it's not there. So I think the U is back in this game. They'll be win this the U in Miami is going to be win this game, and I just think that's really one of my biggest storylines is heading into this matchup.
I wanted to ask about kind of one of the big storylines that we're seeing in college football right now. We didn't get to touch upon it last week, obviously, but Texas football and Arch Manning. So we saw in that first game against Ohio State, he definitely struggled. It was a low-scoring game overall, though. Um, but in the two games since against low-level opposition, there's been some question marks about Arch and this Texas team. So I wanted to put it on the table. Do we think Texas and Arch Manning maybe got a little bit too much hype too early, and we think maybe they're not quite as elite as we say they are? I guess they have another light game this week, and then they'll get into the bulk of their SEC schedule. So I suppose we'll find out then, won't we? But I don't know. Do we think Arch and Texas are for real, or do we have some big question marks here, maybe? Jackson, what do you think?
Um, yeah, there are a lot of question marks. Now he hasn't getting, yeah, he hasn't set the single season record for the for touchdowns. But as far as but as far as the season goes, his team is off to a great start, but he hasn't really put up a lot of points on the board as a quarterback. So really, really, as considered as one of the Heisman favorites, they're as Carson Beck's now projected favorite like you said, but really they are winning some games and they are by far the best team in the SEC. But at the same time, he's not playing at a really high level. So that really that really does have a question mark and
Wow,
concerning me that I think really
Not so fast.
yeah, I think really should be on the right track, but really he's taking one game at a time, and I think that he just really just has to be himself, and if I think he does all that, then I think he'll just be fine. But until then, he's got a lot of work to do.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Jackson, you must think Arch Manning is gonna play like his uncle Eli, not have the greatest record, not do the best, but when it comes time to shine in the playoffs, he's gonna win them all.
Game
Like his
manager.
uncle Eli. Jackson, I'm gonna tell you what, you're all a lot of your buddies in Georgia aren't gonna like to hear that comment. I think I heard you say the best team in the SEC, including your old Georgia buddies. Did I hear you right?
Well,
Wait, who do you think
kind
is the
of.
best team in the SEC?
Well, I was saying that Vanderbilt. I've said I put Vanderbilt on those after what they did. Blake, you heard me.
No,
They
but who
went
do you
into
think is the
Williams.
best team in the SEC? I guess was the question, right?
Oh, well,
Would
it
it
has
I
to.
be
thought you said
Well,
it
it
was
has to.
LSU?
Texas.
Well, it has to be. I mean,
LSU?
it has to be LSU, right? So
Wow. You saying it was a good idea for him to come back one more year, the quarterback, huh?
yeah, I think so.
The right
But
decision.
I'm looking at the odds, right? Blake Erkey. I'm looking at the odds right now,
Uh-huh.
and believe it or not, there has been a change and shift.
Is that right?
That Arch Manning is not the favorite. Instead, like I said earlier, Carson Beck is now the co-favorite,
We'll
followed
see. I
by
think Arch still has opportunities to play himself into the Heisman contention. Like he's got games, big games coming up pretty soon. Obviously, you got the Red River game against Oklahoma coming up in October. And then he has a trip to Athens, Georgia. He's taking on Vanderbilt Commodores as well. Tough test, obviously. So, he's got opportunities to make it
Yeah.
up, but you wouldn't say he's got off to a great start in terms
I
of
th yeah, I think he's gotten too much hype. I mean,
right. So you think expectations were too high?
he's playing so-so right now. He's not losing the game for him, but the other players on the team are winning the game. So, time will tell. I think this is his very first year of being anointed as the number one starter. And there's got to be a lot of pressure, for that. Uh, so, time will tell. But, right now he's not playing horrible, but that's not what the hype wants. But, time will tell.
I mean, that's just kind of modern sports media, right? Where everyone
Yeah.
just expects you to come out there and throw seven
Yeah.
touchdowns a game and be
Well, hey, who would have
amazing,
thought
right?
that? Yeah, who would have thought that Ole Miss would be number one in the SEC in week 4?
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, we'll obviously wait and see. I think Ole, Ole Miss is always one of those teams that starts off really hot, and then once they start playing
Mhm.
like their actual schedule,
Yeah.
they come back down to earth.
Yeah. To me,
But
the interesting game in the SEC this weekend is going to be Auburn at Oklahoma.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Oklahoma's kind of been a little bit dormant the past couple years,
Uh-huh.
right? But they look to be kind of back on track here,
Well,
given that big win against Michigan, right?
Auburn's quarterback Jackson Arnold
Yep, Jackson Arnold. That's right. My name,
is a
Jackson
trans
Arnold.
is a transfer from
Auburn.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Oh, that's
And
right. Oklahoma.
He's going back home now.
That's right. That's right. And like you mentioned, Mike, the game featuring both of the transfer quarterbacks, and and you have two teams that are undefeated with the 22 ranked Auburn Tigers coming into Norman taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. That is going to be a fascinating matchup right there. I think if Jackson Arnold plays a clean, perfect game and if he doesn't turn the ball over, then they have a chance. But you got to slow down John Mateer, the Oklahoma quarterback. Have you watched him in the film? He's really good, and that's part of the keys for me to beating Oklahoma is slowing him down. If you're the Auburn defense, if not, then you're probably going to have a hard time believing winning this game, and that's really the few things I look at heading into this matchup. But yeah, Oklahoma has some great players too with Blaylock and Karnak and
Who's your pick for this game, Mike?
I've got the players.
This is a hard one, but I just have a feeling that Auburn's going to pull it out.
Oh wow,
Auburn will.
That's a long trip for them as well, isn't it?
Yeah, go in there and upset them.
So Blake Blomberger, so I wanted to ask you, who do you got in this matchup between the Auburn Tigers heading into Norman, taking on the Boomer Sooner? Who do you got in this matchup, BL Weinberger?
Wait, you got Boomer Sooners in two?
Yeah, Boomer Sooner is 3-0.
They're taking on Oklahoma's hosting Auburn this weekend.
I'm got from SEC home. I think is going to take it.
Okay, Blake's got Auburn.
Blake Blomberger's got Auburn. Okay,
nice. I'm picking the Sooners. I think the home field advantage there they have in Norman makes a difference. So I'm going Boomer Sooner on that one personally. Any more matchups you like before we jump here in a second to some NFL football? Any other college matchups we're looking forward to this weekend?
Texas Tech at Utah.
That's a fun one, isn't it?
Number 17 versus number 16.
It's a fun game. Noon on Fox. Yeah. Is that like a 9 a.m. start? And what time zone does Utah? And that's kind of weird.
They're 2 hours ahead of us. They're
starting at 10 a.m. What the heck? That's
everybody in the sports media has been talking
about
Fox
it. For you.
A 10 a.m. kick.
That's crazy.
What the idea about this is that your players by the way, I'm picking Oklahoma to win this game against Auburn, by the way.
Okay.
But anyway, back to my point here that the idea of a 10 a.m. kick where your routine is you get up and the players have your breakfast and then you just try to suit up and get ready to play some football on a 10 a.m. kick out in Utah State, I believe it is, and so really
Utah.
Well, yeah, out in Utah, out there in the altitude. So really, the idea is you just go out and have breakfast, and you try to get up early and start your day of watching football, and kind of like where in the NFL where you watch the games in London or Dublin or Ireland and London or Germany for all perspectives for a perfect example like this. It's really this idea of of what would so-called be a early football kick, kind of like watching from other previous sporting events for watching it this early today, and that's really what set up of this kickoff at 10 a.m. rather than just like kicking it off of like 4:30 afternoon or in prime time for that slot, and that's really why they chose a 10 a.m. kick.
Well, nice. Yeah, luckily they don't really drink in Utah anyway, so they should just stick to the coffee and they'll be in good shape, won't they?
There you go.
That's a fun matchup for sure. Fun matchup, yeah. I think I like the Utes in that one personally.
Yeah.
Home field, right?
Their Utes quarterback is so far, knock on wood, has played error free.
Okay.
He's been playing well.
I hope Utah goes on a run. I feel like they've always kind of deserved to go on a nice little run here. So
Yeah,
yeah, fair play to the Utes.
I got the Utes on this one.
You got the Utes, Jack?
I do.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
If nothing else, Utes is fun to say.
It's a fun thing to say, the Utah Utes, huh? I could say that. Say that 5 times fast. All right. Well, I think we should jump to a little NFL chat now, fellas, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We got a big week coming up in the NFL. Every week's a big week in the NFL, isn't it? But first, I want to touch upon just a couple of games last week that we saw and kind of what we think this means going forward. And I think the big game that we should touch upon that happened last week is the Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City, where the Philadelphia Eagles took care of business against the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. Bit of a low scoring game, not much offense on either side. Realistically, in this game, Mahomes struggled for most of this game. Hurts kind of struggled as well, to be honest. He didn't really throw the ball too much, but this is kind of the Eagles' bread and butter, isn't it? Grinding out the game, tush pushing on every 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and wearing down your opponent. I mean, Mike, you must have been pretty frustrated watching this one, thinking, like, man, this Eagles team, like, they're just going to grind out this game, like, tush pushing every play. Like, what's going on here?
Well, yeah, and I like the commentators that are talking about the tush push, but if you look at it, their two offensive guards were offside every time.
They weren't calling it.
They weren't calling it,
It
so
wasn't their fault.
yeah.
Where do you
But,
where and my big takeaway from it is that the officials never really saw it, and they just weren't really paying attention and
Yeah.
what they were seeing on the field.
Well, they're going down so low, it's
Well,
hard
yeah,
to see. But
yeah. I mean, the players just I mean, the referees in this game just had no idea
Yeah.
where the ball was going. Like they wanted to tush push and
yeah.
and really their line of scrimmage really dominated this game is why the Eagles won
Oh, yeah.
won those games in one of those big play situations. Whenever it's whenever like getting any first down yardage, that was really the difference in this
Yeah.
game. And for the Chiefs, yeah, they were missing one of their they were missing out one of their star wide receivers.
Mhm.
Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy were not available for this game, but the Chiefs will be just fine. I mean, let's face it, they're 0-2 now. I mean, they're off to a slow start. But I would expect one of those star receivers to be back for the game against the Giants on Sunday night at the Meadowlands when they take on Russell Wilson and the Giants. Well, if you go back to that game where Russell Wilson played a perfect game against the Cowboys,
that was a crazy one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. He did everything he could except he lost the game. Except he lost the game because the Cowboys kicker kicked it to force overtime, and then he kicked it again to win in overtime, which is crazy to even think of. And yet his target, Malik Neighbors, was definitely the best playmaker in this one. But really, to me, what stood out is Russell Wilson still playing on a high level. Just it's just that he made a few mistakes early on in this game, which was really the difference to me, and that's really what made them to lose the game. But they were this close to probably winning at Jerry's World, except the Cowboys were just too much to handle, and that was really the difference in that game. But
the Giants had no defense, and certainly no pass defense.
Well,
and
yeah,
that's what hurt them a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, going back to the Chiefs-Eagles game, to me that was one of the games that the score wasn't as indicative. I think the Eagles owned them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the Chiefs were just not playing on the same level as the Eagles.
The Chiefs haven't been playing at the same level that we're used to for quite a while. Well, not quite a while. I mean, they did make Super Bowl last year, but the first couple of games of the year, of this year, we haven't really seen the same Chiefs team, have we? So
yeah,
no.
I think they get their first victory Sunday night because the Giants are
right. You would hope so.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. Everybody expects that because let's face it, the Giants are a good defense, but not as good as you think. So that's really the key here for me from this matchup.
Well, yeah, I think the other big matchup last week
but
that we
yeah,
should touch upon, Jack,
well, yeah. But
is
hold on, Blake. Hold on, and I do want to point out that that Patrick Mahomes has never lost and started a career 0-3. The last time that happened, Blake, was back in 2014 when the Chiefs actually missed the playoffs. But let's be real here. The Chiefs are going to be fine, and if they're gonna have some make up for any
I'm not so sure.
of errors, Blake,
I'm not so sure.
then do remember this for me.
Mm.
About a couple of years ago, where the Chiefs were off to a slow start, and they made the playoffs as a road team and possibly as a wild card team. Guess what they did?
What?
They won every single game on the road for the path to Super Bowl. It's happened before.
Okay.
It could happen again. That the Chiefs are the Chiefs. As long as you have your quarterback Patrick Mahomes, they are going to be just and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and their play and one of their best playmakers on the team. They're going to be just fine. And the Chiefs are still going to be a dangerous team, even if they are 0-2. They're still a team I still want to face.
It's true, but Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reed were, they were a lot younger, 5 years ago, weren't they? And I
got nothing wrong with that.
I know, but I mean, unless they change, I think something offensively has to change. The running backs aren't doing anything. Mahomes is not connecting with the receivers. Travis Kelsey, he's too busy worrying about his wedding, so he's just been looking slow out there. So I don't know. I think we'll have to see it. We'll see it. Maybe I'm sure they'll bounce back on Sunday night, as Mike said, against the Giants, who, if we go off of the evidence of last week, couldn't defend a small kitten running at them. So I think they'll be back in action against the Giants and put up some points. But I think we should mention as well last week, another big matchup. Well, unfortunately, I mentioned it for Mike's sake, but the Washington Commanders suffering defeat in Green Bay, and leaving a bit worse for wear as well from the state of Wisconsin, didn't they? In terms of injuries they picked up. So if we jump to this week, obviously Washington is hosting the Raiders, but a lot of the discussion, I would imagine, from that team has just kind of been some of the tough injuries that they've suffered, right?
Yeah. Austin Eckler's out for the season. Achilles tendon. Dietrich Weiss, defensive line, he's out for the season. He had surgery on his quad. And Jaden Daniels may not play. He hurt his knee. He hasn't practiced all week.
So unlikely that he'll play if that's the case, right?
Yeah, which is, as a fan, I'm okay with that. I think Mariota does
look for the future. Yeah,
the second string quarterback is a very quality quarterback.
Not the worst backup you could have, right?
No, and playing the Raiders, I think I would sit Jaden down. Geno Smith threw three interceptions last weekend.
Sloppy on Monday,
against the Chargers. So
yeah. And what would be the revenge of the Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh Bowl? And if you want to go back in the days when they were head coaches, they faced each other in college when Harbaugh was at Stanford, Pete Carroll at USC, and at the pro level, where you had Harbaugh with the 49ers, Pete Carroll with the Seahawks, and now they reunite together with the Chargers and the Raiders. Well, the Chargers beat the Raiders in their game last week on the road at Vegas, and yes, they flew all the way out to Brazil for their game on Friday, and the Chiefs in that game.
They're poor.
No, I was going to say for their travel to Brazil might have something to do with part of why they're 0-2 is because of this traveling distance out to Brazil.
Yeah, but the Chargers traveled to Brazil and they played well.
Well, yeah, because they had shorter distance from a trip to LA than Kansas City.
That's not true. They're going down to Brazil, South America. They're not going to Hawaii.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, but I do get my point. So
Okay.
The Chargers just had a better flight. They got there
They
sooner.
must have had a better.
That's
The
my-
Maybe they had
The
better
Chiefs
in-service
flight
flight.
landed
Yeah.
late at night.
That's my point.
They had
That's
better
my
meal
point.
options.
That's
Yeah.
my point. The
Okay.
flight was a lot longer
I
for
didn't know
Kansas
that.
City than the Chargers because of where it was located geographically. So that's really my point. So really, the Chargers are off to a great start. And and yes, they have spoiled Pete Carroll's birthday, which he turned on that day. So there would be
Did
no
nobody tell them it was his
exchange
birthday?
cards or birthday presents.
I'm sure they exchanged cards.
Yeah, it was just the way it was for those coaches. That's just how they treat that's just how they treat life like that. So that's
I
really
looked it up, Jack,
what it is.
and you're right. The Kansas City flight is about an hour longer than LA, so I think you're right. I think that extra hour must have made a difference in that game.
Yeah, well, that says a lot, and that does explain a lot to why they're off to a rough start. So it makes sense.
Well, what about in terms of other interesting teams that have got off to an interesting start this year? I think we should mention so far in terms of the standings in the NFC, NFC North in particular. I had my eye personally on JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings, who got off to a hot start against Chicago, who looked to be a bit of a mess themselves. They got their pants pulled down by Detroit last week, didn't they, with Ben Johnson's homecoming there. And then Minnesota on Sunday Night Football last night, Sunday Night Football last weekend suffered a pretty tough loss offensively. And now JJ McCarthy is going to be sidelined for a little while as well. So I think for a division that we thought would have a bit more turmoil right now, it looks like the Bears and Caleb Williams are a bit of a mess. The Vikings could have to turn to their backup Carson Wentz, and the Packers are sitting pretty. So I guess my question is, in terms of the NFC outlook, is it the Eagles and Packers are in a class of themselves and everyone else is kind of scrumming it out to fight it out, or do we think there's genuine contenders for this division apart from this conference, apart from those two teams?
What do you think of the Rams?
The Rams are going to be playing on the road in a hostile environment in this tough, rowdy, tough, bully, blue-collar crowd out in the link in South Philly on what would be a NFC wildcard rematch. If you remember, the last time they played in Philadelphia at the link, it was snowing.
That's
and the Rams, and I don't know if you heard this, but Sean McVay doesn't want no part of a tush push. And that was really the biggest takeaway from this matchup, is that they had different officials in that game, that the Rams probably were giving the Eagles themselves the game, except they didn't get the win. So this time around, I think the Rams will have something to say about that for their revenge in this matchup. But yeah, you got two 2-0 teams going at it, and that will be a very interesting and fun matchup to watch, wouldn't it?
It's a good game, yeah.
The Eagles' Achilles heel is their defensive backs. I don't think their defensive backs are as good as they were last year. And I would be somewhat concerned. I think the Eagles will probably win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams start airing it out and take advantage of some of the defensive backs for the Eagles.
Yeah, let's say if Cooper Kupp or Devontae Adams have a perfect game, then they have a chance.
Puka and Devontae Adams.
Nacua, yes. Puka Nacua, who's like a Makuna Nakata Disney character to me, which I'm bringing up in the show. But
Jackson, what a wild take.
you see what I did there, Blake Baumberger.
Oh, I did. I love it.
He is that nickname, and that's what he reminds me of. But anyway, my point is that if they come out and show up and stay healthy and they do the right things that they could and run the ball or pass the ball and do whatever it is they have to do, then they have a chance. But if not, then I think it's going to be too much Philadelphia Eagles for me, because Saquon Barkley, if the Rams defense can't slow him down, and AJ Brown and those guys, if they cannot slow down Saquon Barkley, then the Rams are going to have a hard time and a long day to slow him down in this ball game.
No, for sure. And I think, as well, other teams, it's a little bit too early to make any judgment calls, but the NFC West teams have started off pretty hot. I think all of those teams fancy themselves playoff contenders. Obviously, once they get into their divisional matchups more and more, they'll have to chip away at that. So, yeah, I mean, early returns, as we say, but I've been pretty bullish on Seattle, given what we saw against Pittsburgh. I think the real question will be Sam Darnold and how he's able to hold up. I think that defense is strong. I think Arizona started off well, but they started the season against Carolina and New Orleans, a couple of cupcakes, in my opinion. So
they played the 49ers in California this
exactly.
weekend.
So I think we'll learn a little bit more about that division over the next couple of weeks. I think I'm quietly pretty bullish on the Falcons, despite their Week 1 loss to Tampa. I think Bijan Robinson has been electric so far this year, and I think Penix, the more reps he gets, will improve. And they have, I think once they get past, they have games against the Commanders and the Bills, but once they get past that, I think those divisional matchups will be pretty favorable for them. So don't rule out Atlanta for a sneaky division win there. And I think you're probably a little bit down on the Commanders right now, but I don't think the Cowboys or Giants have done anything in the first two games really to dissuade you of the Commanders coming out with a positive season, at the end of the year or so.
No, I think Commanders are still going to have a they're still going to be playoff bound.
I think as well. I think what a lot of people were saying, and it's possibly has come true so far these first 2 weeks, is that the Commanders just happened to have everyone healthy. They were elite on the fourth down conversions, and sometimes the way that the NFL goes is that the ball doesn't bounce your way every time, right? So I think that the key for the Commanders will be to stick around in terms of not beating themselves up if they lose a game like they did against Green Bay last week, and just keeping afloat in the NFC, I think, and they'll be okay.
Yeah, no, with Terry McLaurin, he's got to get his timing back. And once he gets his timing back, they will have two big targets with Debo. Right,
and there's not going to be much of a lot tougher game than Lambeau Field away this year, right? So
yeah,
it's hard to judge you too much off of that.
Yeah,
right. And my biggest storyline for me is the injuries of quarterback. Joe Burrow being sidelined for 3 months, and JJ McCarthy, like you mentioned, is going to be sidelined for 2 and 3 months.
You hate to see it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. But what is that got me thinking? Well, I'm glad you asked. A matchup between Carson Wentz and Jake Browning for the Bengals.
Boy. Who? This is what dreams are made of.
If I would have told you about 3 months ago for that happening, who had that on their bingo card?
I would not have believed you.
Pretty much, yeah, me neither.
It was not on my bingo card.
Nah, I didn't think so either. But this would be the matchup. This should have been the matchup that would have been must-see TV for Burrow and Jimmy McCarthy, the two former college football Heisman Trophy, college football national championship winner quarterbacks going out. That would have been must-see TV matchup right there. But instead, we're going to be getting a Jake Browning and a Carson Wentz matchup. So if you look at who Jake Browning is, well, he played college at Washington and went to high school.
I'm not interested in Jake Browning's biography. What I want to ask you, Jack, is the Bengals are currently leading that division. Without Joe Burrow, they don't stand much of a chance against the Ravens for that division, do they?
No, not at all.
No.
I was listening to Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, and he's saying that his pro football career is over, coming to an end.
What? Who
That
is?
he Joe Burrow,
No, it's not.
that he could be looking into a Andrew Luck situation, because
No,
I
no,
say
that's
that because
hyperbole.
I say that
What does Dan
because
Orlovsky thinking?
well,
He's
well,
thinking about
trust
his own
me,
career.
I know what he's thinking, Blake. He
Dan Orlovsky
says
is not Joe Burrow, so
no,
you better.
but he knows facts.
He wishes he
I
was
watch
Joe
him all
Burrow.
the time, and I'm telling you,
He'll be
He's-
fine. It's just
and
a toe injury.
and I am
He
telling you,
still has 9 good ones.
Yeah,
I'm telling you
you
that
don't even really
he-
need a toe.
well, yeah, and I'm telling you guys that
Okay.
he has took too many hits and had
That's true.
has
Yeah.
a lot of history of injuries, of protecting himself, and of getting hurt too much, and really his protection for this offensive line for this team has not been that great.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not
dating back
his
to
fault.
2021.
The Bengals front office needs to do a better job of getting in the right offensive line, right?
And that's really what frightens me, is how this offensive line and not getting a lot of protection for this Bengals team, and that's really what scares me, is getting
Spooky
hurt too many
season.
times, and how he just gets hurt and just
It's
banged
true. He
up
does have a poor
at
injury
the
record,
wrong
doesn't he?
possible time, and dating
Yeah.
back to the 2021 season. And that's really what
hmm
really strikes me the most is his career, and that's well, he's been a great player in college, but
Right.
but in the pro level, he is a different player, and that's really what really strikes me, is how he just has been playing on a high level ever since his days at LSU, and yeah, you got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase still as your weapons, as your playmakers, but losing Joe Burrow as part of your piece as your offense, they are going to have a long shot of making the playoffs in January and for a shot at the Super Bowl. It's long gone now. This team is thrown out the window right now, Blake.
Another
It's a mess.
AFC storyline that I wanted to bring up is perhaps the biggest surprise of the season so far, 2 weeks in. Are Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts for real? I don't know what we think about it, but they've gotten off to a heck of a start, haven't they? Beating the Broncos last week.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned it. We mentioned the Chargers that nobody's talking about. Well, look at the Colts. Did like you said, Blake.
Surprise team, huh?
Oh yeah, like think about it. They think about it. They were this close to losing the game when they had the field goal miss at the end of the game, except the Broncos on the defensive line just jumped offside.
That was a bad call, but I did not agree with that call, by the way.
Well,
I
yeah,
thought that was harsh.
It was a good call in my opinion, but for
Okay.
me, but my
enough.
point is that the Colts just somehow just stuck in and found a way to win the game at the end, and that just shows you why you should pay attention to this team and how they're off to a great start, and believe me, the Colts are finding ways to win a game. The Texans lost to the Bucs on Monday night. This team, I think, in my opinion, is going to be tough to beat in the AFC South. The Texans better be on watch out and notice. The Jaguars, they're right in the things. Titans are turning in the mix, but for me, the Colts are going to be tough to beat in the AFC South. Indianapolis is clicking on all cylinders. Their head coach is putting the right buttons. It works, and the Colts are for real, Blake. They're for real.
Okay, so you're buying the Colts as AFC contenders, huh?
Oh yeah.
Danny Dimes.
Now they will be challenged in January come playoff time, but
Right.
for now, I am all in on Indy and the Colts.
Fair enough. I have to say, I'm also in on. Well, I'm not as in on the Colts as you, but I am really in on the Chargers. I think as an AFC contender. I think I'm going to say it right now. You can bookmark this. I would not be surprised if the Los Angeles Chargers are playing in the Super Bowl come February. I said it. Look at the AFC odds right now. I don't know how they are, but um, Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, we've seen these teams before. I would not be a lot of people had the Denver Broncos as their surprise team in the AFC. Maybe it's not as much of a surprise given how hot of a start they've gotten off to, but just keep an eye on the Chargers
Yeah.
for the AFC title game. That's all I'm saying.
But I think this weekend the Broncos are going to take the Chargers. The Chargers
You think
edge
so?
rusher edge rusher is out. Elbow.
Mm.
So I think this is
Mac.
a comeback to earth game
Oh,
for
Mac
that's
is-
LA.
a huge. Oh, that's a
Mac is-
huge.
Mac is out.
Oh, that's a huge blow for them
He's not out for the season, but he's going to be out
for a period of time.
for a period of time.
Okay, but you've
Well-
got Denver this weekend though, huh?
Yeah. Broncos are visiting the Chargers, but I think
Mhm. That's a big game, by the way.
I think Bo Nix and et al. will
Knicks
take
versus
it.
Herbert.
Yeah.
So Blake Limburger has been waiting patiently and
Yeah, go ahead, Blake.
and waited quietly for most of our restoration of our show. And before I do,
Well, I know Blake's got some takes to get off his chest, so why don't we give Blake Limburger the floor? What have you got to say here, man?
Thank you for that. I've been, like you said, I've been quietly behind the curtain. It has been opened up for me and Clayton Kershaw tomorrow. We will be doing a final curtain call. Shout out to Mike, and a baseball legend. Jackson, I will say this. You can never judge a quarterback if they played with the Panthers or the Giants. When they leave those teams, Baker Mayfield, prime example, there's so many names that go on to be decent quarterbacks. So if they play for the Panthers or the Giants and maybe a select few other teams like the Browns, possibly, I don't know who else we should throw in there, but you got to give these guys a chance. It makes me wonder what Bryce Young would do for another team. Who knows?
It wouldn't shock me if Bryce Young in 3 years is playing for a different team and having a career renaissance for sure. I mean, I think you're right. I think Baker, Daniel Jones, I think these guys that have had their careers revitalized, it's a pretty common thing that we see more often than you would think in the NFL. So I think Daniel Jones having a strong start to the season wouldn't shock me if he probably, comeback player of the year contender. It would not shock me at all if he leads the Colts to the playoffs this year. So goes to show you can't really sort of these top level players, we can't really rule out too much. Before we head out of here, fellas, we got about a minute left. We got a game tonight, Thursday night, as we're recording this. Miami traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 11.5 points. This game should be a bit of a procession, right? This is going to be a Buffalo Bills party up there at in Orchard Park, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. We were all on the Bills on this one. The Dolphins are going to fall 0-3, and
Probably they might fire their coach soon, huh?
And Mike McDaniels is going to be on the hot seat, and
I think he already is on the hot seat.
and not going to be on this job very long.
He might be, I guess, on this podcast pretty soon. The way he's going right now, yeah.
Well, he might be doing.
He'll be the first head coach in Florida to get fired this year.
Ooh,
good
There you
take,
go.
Mike.
Is it
Great take.
Napier or
Uncle Mike.
McDaniel? Who goes first? Maybe
Napier
they
will
just
be
switch
second.
jobs. Yeah.
Who goes first or who's on first?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Billy
Two-
Napier and Mike McDaniels fired on the same year. Well, that would be pretty wild and crazy.
How about they switch teams, Jackson? Let's spice it up a little more and put a Uno reverse in there.
Okay then. How
University
about
of
that?
Florida will be in Miami this weekend, so they could meet up and shake hands and argue about who's doing a worse job right now. So,
Is that a sleeper game?
No.
Does Miami need to? They need to be careful with that game?
I think we all picked the Hurricanes, right, for that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a sleeper,
The
man. I'll tell you what,
the
Jackson.
U is back.
Jackson,
Blake. The
I'm
U
gonna
is
tell you-
back.
I'm going to tell you why. It's the SEC versus the ACC. Never sleep on conferences.
Huh.
I get it. They're a great team in the high school ACC division. They're killing it. But Jackson, they might be playing a sleeping giant. When people's jobs are on the line and their family and their staff, they go a little harder. So be careful with Billy Napier heading down to Miami.
Does that mean you're picking the Gators, or you?
It's an upset alert, Jackson.
Okay, all right. He's
Upset
giving it. Wow. Okay.
alert. The
Hey,
Gators.
You're going to look very smart.
I mean,
come
listen.
next week if that happens.
I
So.
mean, listen, Blake. He's been in this situation before last season. How that work out? Well, he survived the job. So you do make a great point about that, Blake Lomberger.
We'll see.
I'm doing
We'll
it for
see.
Steve Spurrier, Jackson.
Well, good for you. Good for you because you deserve it. Anyway, Blake. Anyway, Blake. We're out
of time here, man. We gotta wrap things up.
But real quick before we go, that this is for Uncle Mike Roby. That it has been reported not long ago, overnight last night, that in the news that it's been finally official that the RFK Stadium site will be returning to the District of Columbia in start of the 2020-30 NFL season. Now, final approval has to be made by the city mayor of DC and the governor.
That was done yesterday.
But it was already set and done.
It was approved yesterday.
And in 2030, the Commanders returning to the RFK site will be bigger, better than ever. And I can guarantee you, but who knows where we're going to be at that decade in time. But sooner better than later, when the Commanders do start play in the 2030 season, I bet you they'll be better than ever than they were before, Mike.
That's right. Fight for old DC.
DC and the great and the burgundy and gold for all of those fans up in the DMV. It is a historic day, and the fans can really feel better and be happy about it, Mike.
Well, shout out to all the DMV fans that are listening. I know we got a couple. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to Good Guy Sports this week. We hope you have a great weekend, some great games on. Gentlemen, Jackson, Mike, Blake Limberger, thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys. You too.
Thank you, guys. Night.